Guess we're not going live just yet. Uh, Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Listen to the Podcast for the 21st of December, which I rarely said the date, but since this is the second to the last podcast of the year, which is just a marker in the calendar about
Yeah.
measuring how often we go around the sun as an arbitrary measure of time, but still significant to a lot of people. I say that because yesterday I felt like crap. I got the seasonal blues, and I was like, Christmas, humbug. So, so when I'm feeling a bit down, you hear in my voice, it's because of that. But we're still here, Chapel One myself. And we're going to be talking about video game news and going to talk about a lot about, well, I'm getting tired of Cyberpunk, to be honest.
Uh,
So we're going to be usually the bad news. But before we do that, let's just do some other news. For example, we have GTA Online. Um, who is, and we talked about this one, the future DLC will have more of a single player element. Rockstar didn't say anything about GTA 6. Ah, that's interesting. Are they, essentially, they're going to turn GTA 5 into games as service, which it already is, and just keep putting out more stuff about it. And GTA 6 will just be another add on to it. GTA Online, new Cayo Perico. Mm-hmm. For people who don't know, perico sometimes is a reference to cocaine in certain um, Spanish. Some, at least where I come from, that's one of the terms for cocaine. So yeah, Heist has more than part done gone down well, and not just because it's got Dr. Dre cameo. Everybody loves Pavel, your new Soviet best buddy, but players also enjoying the new freedom of being able to tackle the heist alone. Previous GTA Online heist app, as is tradition, all require multiple players. So it's more of a yeah. I think what they're trying to do is get people who are just primarily just playing GTA single player with mods and entice them over to multiplayer so they can get the sweet microtransactions out of them. I mean, I'm glad they're doing that. I'm not gonna be playing GTA. I don't feel like playing GTA online ever. I played
nope.
GTA 5 and it was okay. So so those people playing GTA Online want to have more solo action. There you go. Although being GTA, that has probably double and triple entendres, but there you go. Also for PC Gamer over at PC Gamer 2 hours ago by Rich Channel, Alien Isolation is free for 24 hours on Epic Store. In single player, no one can hear you scream. Yeah.
Hmm.
So for those who want to check out Alien Isolation and do not mind being subscribed to you know Epic, go ahead and bag that game. Like horror, I don't like horror games, so uh, not gonna be my thing. Judging all the cyberpunk news because we're gonna be talking a little bit later. There's not much else to be honest. Control comes to PS5 and Xbox Series X, Control Series whatever, with ray tracing in February. So if you have
Ooh,
that new
fancy.
3080 or a new game machine, games machine, then by all means grab Control. A remake. Remedy Games Paranormal Office Trailer will come to next gen consoles immediately on February 2nd, following a full retail release on March 2nd. This tweet announced on Twitter this morning. So they're not doing the automatic upgrade. I think what they're doing is yeah, but they
Y-
are going to charge you $40 for the Ultimate Edition. So they're sticking
Yeah,
to that for now.
so yeah, I think we've talked about that a couple times where the whole like, oh, you have to buy our new collector's edition or to get the free upgrade
Mm-hmm.
once the next generation comes out. But then of course the when I think the Ultimate Edition came out, people who had bought the past version plus all the DLC were automatically accidentally updated to have the ultimate edition in their library, when of course they said, "Oh, we can't for reasons." But oopsie poopsie, you did it accidentally, and then of course you go back and fix your accident, your positive accident.
Which
Uh,
reminds me of Anthem, when
yep.
they.
Oh, we accidentally made our game more fun. Well, no, we can't have that. Must fix it.
Without you paying us more money. Nope, we can't have that. Sucks to be you. So, other news, also another free game. Oh yeah, PSA City. This is from Otaku with Ethan Gach. City Skylines is currently free on Epic Game Store. This was Thursday, so I guess it might already not be free already. Another part $30 free on Epic Store until 11 a.m. Yeah, this wasn't until December 18th. But I want to talk about the fact that Epic seems to be now their stick is, oh, here's a free game, here's another free game. Do you want a free game? Because we got free games for you, which is fine by me. I'll take the free games, but probably the only reason why I should be subscribed to Epic Store, and it doesn't require me to, you know, to to have to be subscribed to anything or pay a monthly fee.
Yeah,
I do
like
have to
a
have their client, but it's yeah, I'm willing to live with that.
well, you only have to have their client it when you want to download the game and play it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm willing to live with that little annoyance. Well, it's still more than a little annoyance, but it's better than having to pay a monthly fee for a system that on paper might seem like it's giving me a lot of choices, but in the reality, probably not going to play all those games anyway. So I'm paying a lot of money for nothing. So there you go. Uh, we I guess we got to dive into it because there's not a lot of news that isn't cyberpunk.
No, I'm not seeing a whole
It's
lot.
wow, yeah, Christmas.
And of course, Christmas.
hmm I
Uh,
mean, if you're gonna get a Razer Death Adder Essential for $20 and a Logitech G23 for $15, you can do that.
Double the amount of viewers. It's, okay.
The game advertising.
Yep, the game
Yeah,
advertisement.
so
So they doubled the eyeballs on their advertisement, probably because of COVID, maybe.
yeah,
And
probably more.
that's actually kind of surprising. Leading into our topic, that the same day it released or it broadcast is the same day that Cyberpunk launched, which people are like,
hmm
"Ooh, that's kind of bad timing, unintentionally." But I guess
yeah.
it didn't hurt them.
No, other things hurt them, like for example, uh, oh wait, I do have a before we talk. We do have one from our old friends at Riot Games. Riot casually announces the League of Legends MMO, which seems a bit redundant, but here we go.
Okay.
League of Legends fans who would like to enjoy the universe will not keep playing the same game over and over again until you die. Your luck. Isn't that the whole games of service thing that League of Legends and others have made famous or infamous? Riot just announced a new MMO set in the game universe in the most casual way imaginable. In this
Hmm.
tweet exchange, Riot VP Greg Street starts out by saying that how he's recently been recently helping to develop the league universe and how this new job it could kick off a big, some might say massive game that many of you and many rioters have been asked us to create. It's pretty much said it already, but Street then clarifies just to be sure. It's an MMO.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess like when I think MMO, I mean, I think MMOs has sort of evolved, but mostly I think of MMORPGs, which
Mm-hmm.
makes me wonder. It's like, oh, so are they gonna try to make like their own like World of Warcraft?
Probably.
Because didn't War has Blizzard's tried to make their own MOBA, right? Their
Mm-hmm.
own battle arena.
Yeah.
So it I guess it would make sense for them to try to like let's dip our toe over here into the world of legends, I guess. We'll see how that goes for them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, let's also because we're gonna probably have a shorter podcast, so you can go back to your festivities by yourself, lonely like we are because of COVID.
Yep.
Merry Christmas to me and to you and everybody. Is going to talk Cyberpunk. I'm going to read a couple of headlines and when we're going to get to it. For example, first headline from Kotaku: Sony pulls Cyberpunk 27 from PlayStation Store, says buyers can get a refund. This is after CD Projekt Red said that you could get refunds from everybody, but they didn't have control over any refunds outside of
Yeah.
GOG. So that was a bit of a problem. But this got pulled from stores altogether. It's like, yeah, we're not selling it. Which, considering that PlayStation is still the biggest platform outside of PC out there, that's a huge hit.
Yeah.
Um,
And Best Buy has said like, hey, those physical versions, we'll take it back and just come back if you want to, and we'll take it back.
yeah. Another PSA: crafting a huge number of items can corrupt your Cyberpunk 2070 save.
I heard that on Jim's video today. I was like, oh, I didn't hear about that.
Mm-hmm. This is by Jonathan Bolding. There was about a couple of days ago. Abusing duplication glitches is a way to ruin your game. Now, it's both ways. You can, if you abuse the glitch, you can crash your game faster, your saves. But this is just about crafting. Period. If you craft too many because they go to your character save, and apparently the game doesn't have any more than 8 MB worth of space for this. And the glitch goes like, don't save data is damaged and cannot be loaded. It had become clear that any save over 8 MB was corrupted. I'm a save crazy kind of person, so
Yeah.
yeah, no, wow, yeah. Thank you, Jonathan, for warning me about that.
Yikes.
And then another piece of news, and this one is also, I think, very important. Report Cyberpunk 27. This is from last Friday. Developers grill management over crunch, deadlines, and poor launch. Staff of Cyberpunk 27 Studio, CD Projekt Red asked tough questions of their leadership and an all-hands video meeting on Thursday, including about mandatory overtime and far-fetched production goals, according to a news report by Bloomberg. Developers asked blunt questions about the company's reputation, the game's unrealistic deadlines, and the relentless overtime in the months and years leading up to the game's December 10th release. By the way, a game that was delayed at least 3 times in the same year.
That's the biggest. That's the biggest quarrel I have with all of this, especially if you remember the teaser trailer, the super secret teaser trailer, it even said release date when it's ready. It definitely was not ready. Lies.
Yeah. And I think let's launch into the talk of the day, because I think we talked about an aspect of this, Lester, and then there was a piece of news that confirmed it, because of course it was so obvious that the mainstream media actually picked it up. So let me go to our Discord and check that piece of news. It's over at the industry news. So if you want to keep up with industry news, you can go to our Discord and check them out. And that is, what was it? Yeah. It's weird how some games are now too big to fail over at Kotaku. So we already talked about that aspect, especially when we talk about Cyberpunk and still being successful somehow. But it seems now maybe not all games are immediately successful. At least on Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk might survive this. Probably will. CDPR probably will survive this. It's going to be a company-ending project, but it's a black black eye nonetheless, as it should be, because they screwed up. We call monster strikes as much as possible here on the channel, so I'm not gonna lie about that. But if you look at all the news about Cyberpunk 2077, they encapsulate everything that we've been talking about from almost every single angle on this year and
previous years,
but particularly this year, right? COVID, crunch, crunch is mismanagement. And so I know what
false advertising, manipulation of review copies and MDAs.
Being a slave to your own advertising cycle, right? Advertising and encouraging the worst of your fan base with being very edgy, right? And then that backfiring horribly, because people were willing to forgive the transphobia and all that, but when the game came out buggy or was being delayed, you got death threats. So it's like, Not saying that those things are okay. We said this before. People are responsible for their actions. But if you know that that is bad, don't encourage it. Don't, the sort of immersion even when the game is not out. Please don't do that. That's not good. Um, and all of these seems to have coalesced around 2077. A company that had a great reputation, and then that reputation has been eroded over this year, right? They were quote unquote the good guys, but now, of course, we have said this before: corporations are not your friends. So, will the industry learn the lesson of 2077?
No.
No,
They haven't learned their lessons from anything. If anything, I'm somewhat surprised. So the thing with CD Projekt Red is it's right now it's a darling. Or it was now at this point it was past tense. It was this a darling video game developer, which it made a lot of goodwill with the Witcher series, especially the Witcher 3. Then of course all of this happened, but honestly it's not that different than it's sort of not that different from any other thing that has come before it in terms of these controversies, because we've seen this. It's just that we've seen it from companies that we've seen it over the course of many years, and by this point many people just kind of like, oh yeah, the more crunch for the, like, oh yeah, that's pretty normal for EA. It's been normalized from those companies to kind of expect those shitty practices, but not so much from this darling of a game company that's that tries to that's been selling itself on honesty and being upfront and being ethical and trying to put out the best product, and we're not going to rush it. We're going to put it out when it's ready. We might have to delay a few things. Thank you for your understanding on that, but we want to give you the best possible product when it launches. And that's what they kept repeating with Cyberpunk, and it did not happen. And of course, they've also, over the course of this year and some parts of last year, they have gone back on their words of things they've promised. Like, we'll promise we're not going to crunch our staff. And then they went back on their word just willy nilly. Where we promised we won't do microtransactions, there's been kind of talks of like, the multiplayer might have microtransactions. It's, and of course there's the I guess some of the complaints about some toxic work culture within CD Projekt Red, and so it turns out that they're not that much different than other game companies. When I think it's not just that some people wanted them to be different, is they sort of needed them to be different, because if you think about it, it's almost like buying any kind of game right now is very unethical in some way. There's blood and sweat on the game that you're buying, and people probably wanted to get like a really good product and have it be clean, and it's not. It's not. We weren't given that, and unfortunately, it turns out they're not that different than any of the other AAA companies, and I think that's what people are having to come to terms with.
Also, I think this shows, and again, I make reference to a Death of a Game series. People should check, and also there's another series on YouTube called Gamers. Check them both out. Where they catalog the history of franchises or a specific game and how they rose, and rise of and the fall of something. Right. One of the things that always happens is ambition becomes greed, and in a
Yes.
very particular way. In that, we've been successful before. Our next game has to be bigger, not merely. And this is also happens in the world of games as
Or
service and all
or
that,
or
which
our fans
focus.
really love us. I think we could kind of get away with this and that, the small tiny thing, and then it starts to snowball.
Yeah, but also one of the things that you see this, and you see in other projects as well. You see, where No Man's Sky had this problem where you keep promising more and more things. Oh, we're gonna have this character customization. There were dozens of tweets about characters customization, and there were things about the world's gonna be much bigger than The Witcher. It'll be this rich city and all that. And at some point, you cannot deliver what you promise. You can't. I mean, I played a little bit of 2077. The problem with me is I don't know what it is. It's uh, we getting into the
It's
go
on
ahead,
the
don't worry about it.
table.
Yeah, getting into the specifics to me when I play, and then that about something happens with I'm with a new sandbox game. Sometimes it takes me a little while to get into it, so I'm probably it's a bit of that. But even then, it's just the game feels a bit loose to me for some reason, right? It has gorgeous, you walk around this city. This city looks very much alive, right? Like I lived in places like this, for example. Not nice city is a physical fictional city, but for example, you walk out and you see this rent apartment where the entire wall it's covered with air conditioner units sticking out, and that's a little detail that goes like this is a place where it's very hot, and this is low rent because rich people do not tend to have these kind of air conditioning units. They have like expensive, fancy integrated rooftop things that nobody sees, right? They're designed to be essentially invisible, right? So it's stuff like that, right? You go into a store and everything's very crowded, and there's knickknacks in there. So there's a lot of detail there, but I wonder if this game would have benefited from, I don't know, being instead of being all in one inclusive thing. Because if you look at Witcher 3 came after The Witcher and The Witcher 2, right? There's an evolution. I think they wanted to do if they wanted to do Cyberpunk. They wanted to jump right into sort of Witcher 3 style game
Instead of having a build up.
without having a build up. Instead of building up the franchise, like we have a franchise here. We can do more with this. We can take our time, right? I remember playing Shadowrun. Shadowrun games are 3 games, right? They started with a simple game, very linear, and by the time they got to the third game, Hong Kong, they really had evolved that game. We talk about GTA. How many GTA games have been there? GTA 5 didn't come out of nowhere, right? It came out of at that time 5 or maybe 6 games, really. GTA, San Andreas, GTA Vice City, GTA 4, and GTA 5, which were the sort of 3-dimensional big and got bigger and bigger and bigger, place, with music, and they started refining their formula. And that was based on a sort of 2.5D top down couple of games that they released as well. Plus, there were a couple of side games for Sony. Never got them on PC, by the way, or the Xbox. I wish I could play them. I'm sure you can emulate them, but that's I leave that entirely up to you, audience members. Now, in other words, there was an evolution, right? GTA 5 just didn't come out of nowhere, right? Even Destiny 2 is very popular, came from a company that did Marathon, Halo, Halo 2, other 3. And even when you have a lot of experience like 343, still having problems with the Halo that's gonna delayed. So I'm gonna come out sometime this year, fall this year, Halo Infinite. May not be end up being that great anyway, right? Maybe a step too far. Even companies like BioWare, who have huge experience, sometimes when they go places where they don't have a lot of experience, like creating a huge sandbox, in another galaxy, or a game as service, they flub it, right? Um, but they seem that maybe there's CD Projekt Red magic as well. They could do no wrong, right? Um, I mean, I know people want bigger and better, but you can't. And I think Jim has said a lot. This like people, the industry has created these expectations that people want better graphics and bigger and better, and then when they fail to deliver them bigger and better, then they turn around and say, "Well, it's your fault because you wanted bigger and better." Like, well, you promised us bigger and better, and we paid you for bigger and better based on your promises, and then you failed to deliver. Whose fault is that? Not us, right?
Yep.
And I think that's the thing, right? I really want to like 2077, and I was really excited for it, but I guess it's also because I'm being very cynical, right? It been 10 years ago, something like that. We were talking off camera about New Vegas. That was another game that many moons ago made me more cynical about video games because it was like, oh, I think this is going to be great. And it wasn't. Not for me,
Yeah.
anyway. Um, and um, and so that's a thing. And then, like, now when I got 2077, I'm like, okay, I can see the brilliance. I can, if it's just a walking simulator, you mean just walking around the city, I would just love to do that or drive around. But getting to do and engage with the city, I'm not there yet. And I think it's because it doesn't have that sense. It's too much too soon, I think. It's overwhelming, at least for me. Had they started really small and you got to Night City, a couple of hours later or something like that, or you started in a corner and it's like, okay, let's develop this, and you're gonna have future games in the city and in this world. This is an entire world. It's the world of Cyberpunk, and not just Night City. It's futuristic cyberpunk world where there being corporate wars, and you know there's the Europeans have a station in the moon where they don't have the European powers, at least. I don't know how much has changed since 2020, but they used to have basically this machine that they accelerated, accelerator to launch payloads to Earth, right? Without having to use a rocket. And so when everybody's saying, "Oh, we're going to have nukes," it's like, okay, we're going to send a couple of chunks of rock, lunar rock, your way. You mess with us, we don't have to drop a single nuke. We're just going to drop big rocks that go very, very fast, and wherever they happen to hit, it's going to die. So, yeah, better settle down, right? And it's stuff like that. And I love the details, right? Again, I've lived in some places like like some of the ghettos. It's like they're like, yeah, I know those two ladies of the night. I'm sure they're doing fine, And the complaints from the neighbors, I live in places like that, so it's a bit too real for me, maybe. Um, and it feels at that level great, but at another level, especially in the controls, I feel it's like I feel like I can see the strengths of the puppet, right? So I'm sort of like, I'm not really in the body, like, oh, I'm reaching and punching, whatever. On video games, always there's a distance, but here I feel like I'm pulling a lever and there's a punch, right? Right? I'm running and I'm telling to run, and it's like, okay, I'm running, right? It's I can see that space, I can feel that space, and I think that's the part where one reason why I haven't gotten into the game. And I have only experienced many of the bugs. Is I'm not even done with the first real primary mission. I'm just doing the prep for that mission where the real game starts a couple hours in, right? So yeah, I'm still in the demo stage. Like the demo they released that was playable about a couple of months ago. I'm still doing that. So yeah, I want to love it. I really
Hmm.
do. Kind of reminds me of New Vegas. I really wanted to love it, and I'm probably gonna have to sit down and knuckle down maybe on Christmas Day, and also I guess frustrated because I couldn't stream it because for some reason OBS was like, nope, we can't do that. Not on this rig anyway. I'm like, I forgot to invest in a 3090. My bad. Okay, you know. So there's that.
Yeah, it's just disappointing, and you know, it, I am experiencing some Schadenfreude on for CD Projekt Red, but I feel bad because people worked hard on this game. Fans were really looking forward to it, and no one got what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm gonna say this. We talk about the workers, but I think if this really rips a chunk of CD Project Red, at least a bleeding CD Project Red, I'll be happy about it. But I think it should be fitting because that's the thing. I think it's gonna stick. People are gonna go like, oh, okay. It wasn't just a couple of days or a week, maybe 2 weeks where people were excited. This was long running, and you paid the financial price because you lost stock and maybe even sales because now you caught off from Sony. This is, we've had buggy games before, like Ubisoft, all things Ubisoft. When was the
Yeah.
last time that Sony said, "Oh, well, we're gonna take out Valhalla or something out of our store, even
I
so
was
for
gonna
the
say
US.
maybe, and I don't really think so. I'd have to look back, like back Batman Arkham Asylum. Like the
Yeah,
PC version was really like bad. I don't think it ever got fixed.
I think eventually it got fixed, but eventually. And again, there was a situation where the better your rig, the less you noticed it, which means one of the things that it wasn't properly optimized, right? Also the transgenerational thing. I think this is my theory. My theory was that 3, 4 years ago, right? They were going to make this game for the still current generation of games, of machines, PlayStation 4 and Xbox X, right? That's what that was, or Xbox One. That was their goal. And then as it took longer and longer to make the game, and the new machines were coming in, right? PS5 and Xbox, whatever, they were like, wait a minute, we can't miss out on that. And on top of that, of course, a new series of cards came out for for PC, RTX ray tracing. I was like, oh, we have to grab on. That's the other part of being greedy, right? Of sort of having it's this great. It's like, no, we have to make sure that our game is, when it comes out, is the best game ever. I think also the lessons from The Witcher 3, Witcher 3 looks great even today, right? And you can, there's some mods to even make it greater. But one of the things about The Witcher 3 was that it was, in many ways, was very smooth and stuff like that. For example, being able to walk into a building, right? And clearly you're walking into another cell, but you open the door and there's no like, oh, blank screen or loading screen, Skyrim style, and then you're inside. No, it's you walk in and it's like you were just opening the door and walking in, right? Those little things right there made it very smooth, right? The conversations and this and that, it felt like a living, breathing world. But again, that came off years of learning how to do it, because the original Witcher was made with a heavily modified version of the Neverwinter Nights Aurora engine,
Hmm.
which was never ever designed to do full on 3D, right, like that. But they managed it. And by the way, the original Witcher was a PC exclusive game, and it had the reputation of being one of those PC master race games, like, oh, only try hard people like to play this game, because only on when you have a full keyboard and a 10-button mouse, only you can play this game, right? It's only for those kind of players. But then they made Witcher 2, which was cross-platform. It sold well, had better graphics, etc. It was still a bit clunky, by the way. I actually tried playing on 360, and I didn't go very far because the controllers kind of like, okay, I'm trying to. But by the time of Witcher 3, which I played, I haven't finished it, but I played a significant amount of it. I was like, okay, this I can see why people like this. Um, and it's a good game overall. But again, you know, there's a saying in Spanish: "Comer con los ojos." Eating with your eyes, right? You see something, it's like you consume it through your eyeballs instead of actually getting into your hands. The idea of it is more appetizing than the actual thing, right? To the point where people say like, oh, that looks, I think the English version will is that looks too rich. Like when you see a piece of food that just looks a bit too much, like too sugary, or you're like, wow, that should be tasty, but I have the feeling that it's a bit too much and I don't want to touch it, right? It's kind of like that, right? But they just went ahead and did it anyway. The other action is like, because I bought the game, I also feel like the thing that I've also talked about is the patching culture. Release now, fix later. But a lot of the complaints are that their entire mechanics, especially on the older platforms, that are just missing. They're not there, unavailable. So it's like, oh, wow, that's just, the game is unfinished, right? And having played a little bit, playing Pathfinder Kingmaker, which eventually got good after a couple of years of improvements, and No Man's Sky, I'm like, if you can fix it, sure, try. So I buried my stand on the patching culture a little bit, but it's something that still should be avoided at all costs, right? There's a thing about, oh, whoops, we made a mistake. We let the leaving the scalpel inside the patient kind of situation. Like, well, we fixed them, but oh, we're not planning on that one, right? Or a watch or something you had to open up again. I can understand the situation, emergency situation, it can really happen because you test the game and come that, and maybe what it happens usually what happens is scripts and collision, something like that. Something came up that millions of players out there, eventually the percentage of 1 2 5 10 15 percentage points will actually discover that in your in test testing in in house, because you're testing for specific things, might not be there or got overlooked, right? Or you thought you fixed it. I get that, and for that I always said, hey, patch it, because give a good experience. But this game's a game that feels unfinished, and at some point we have to stop rewarding companies for releasing incomplete games. Even if you have a couple of outliers out there that are proving, because they are outliers, like No Man's Sky, that prove that eventually, given enough time, they will finish it. Like, well, then just finish the game. And also, again, goes into the business mode, because one of the things about CD Projekt Red, essentially, they were going, and they're still in that trajectory of being the new Steam, the new not Steam, but the new Valve, right? Where they kind of release games, but their thing is that they have a significant online store, and so they sell a lot of money. They don't meet their a game seller, not a game developer or publisher, so they don't need it. And it seems that CD Projekt Red was with GOG on that direction, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, but we're not there yet, so I guess we still have to release a game." And they put all, and that's another thing. I always felt that the problem with CD Projekt Red, and this is a fear I always had, was that they were putting all their eggs in one basket. They only had the one project. Well, I mean, they had the card game with Witcher and all that, but that's that was a backup, just keeping developing Witcher, which to me somewhat successful for them, right? The card game that they put online. But again, that they didn't have other projects, right? They didn't diversify. It was Cyberpunk or nothing. And now that Cyberpunk is here,
well,
it's leaning more on nothing.
well, weren't they also supposedly working on like a multiplayer Cyberpunk game? Which, I mean, who knows about that, considering how this came out.
I think that this game is supposed to have a multiplayer, kind of like GTA 5. It has supposed to have a multiplayer element to it. But, yeah, no, it didn't, apparently didn't work. Or they haven't done it yet. So
might have thrown their goodwill for people to try that out.
Yeah, I guess so. And also, one of the things, and this is another thing that I noticed about entire book 27, what I've seen about it is very much like that, is that a lot of games that take on political issues and political items, and then it's like, oh, by the way, one way to do this is to actually act on the side of the cops. You're supposed to be a cyberpunk. You're supposed to be at the edge of the law, if not an outright criminal. But it's like, well, you want to do a side quest. It's a recurring side quest is helping the cops catch criminals. I'm like, shouldn't I be going against the cops?
Maybe like, is it like a Batman thing where you're kind of like, they're sort of like common like criminals of, so putting them away, have like you share a common interest with like the cops and them.
What I see basically, it's like a bounty hunting thing. Basically, yeah, you're helping the cops. It's like, well, that's just not very punk, and other stuff like that. It's like, yeah, it reminds me of what was his game? From Obsidian.
Disco Elysium.
No, it's Obsidian. Yeah. The Outer Worlds.
Oh.
Where on the surface, the Outer Worlds is like, yeah, capitalism bad. You get to punch capitalists in the face because they're horrible. Look at what happens when capitalism goes awry.
Give us money.
Like, yeah. The solution is to be basically an elitist, authoritarian centrist. That's the solution. They only get smart people to run everything, then everything is going to be all right. Like, the system is broken, my friend. You do not have reached Praxis yet. You do not have done that. This is broken. We have to fix it. We have to change it. You have a revolution. But no, no. Where's my cigar? I don't know. I left it at home. Anyway, while I'm speaking at home, so it's that kind of thing. It's like, oh, you were going there, and then no, and they basically said it was like, oh, this game is it's not political, and like I'm like,
Of course it's
it's
not.
cyberpunk. Yeah, it's gonna be political. I guess you don't want to be controversial. That's different. So even that is part of 2077. And 77, I think, does encapsulate everything 2020 and the last decade or so of video games. Um, in
It,
one
it's
expensive
just
package.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is just so, I guess, so indicative of the year.
Yeah. So yeah, there's nothing much to say about that. We're gonna do our gaming review next week, hopefully, if we're both available. Before the end, yeah. So we're gonna be talking about all the games we played, didn't play, etc. We kind of talked about it a little earlier, but we're gonna go back to that. The news, the big news, including, of course, Cyberpunk 2077 and everything else. So yes, I'm gonna have to scour Wikipedia because that's the most reliable source for news, gaming news. And hopefully you join us. Also, I should be going back to Pathfinder. I mean, a little bit of an apology is that this is the so yeah. So we're gonna be doing that. So just thank you for everybody for coming, and as always, we'll see you when we see you. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.